Hello and welcome. I am so excited for this podcast episode today because my yoga teacher who taught me yoga teacher training and who has been part of my life for years now and has been kind of the seat and home of my entire yoga experience and practice in my adulthood and post-motherhood is here with me today, Leslie Glickman. Thank you for coming, Leslie.
And Shivani, thank you for inviting me.
Of course. You are such an incredible powerhouse woman in this community, and you're so deeply respected and loved. I remembered when I moved to Boca Raton, Florida, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go around to these yoga studios, and I'm going to see where I feel at home. And then when I met you, I was like, this is it. I'm set. I don't have to ever change. Like, I have found my home for yoga. And then after practicing in the studio for years, I thought to myself, the best gift I can ever give myself is yoga teacher training with you. And once I did it, I realized everybody should do yoga teacher training. Like, it is such a beautiful unfoldment and experience, and we're going to dive into that today. So welcome.
Thank you.
So will you share with our audience today, with whoever is listening, your journey to yoga? Because I'm sure everyone's curious, like what led you to where you are now and this practice that you have?
I think it's a long story. I've been at this for 30 years. So I have 3 decades dedicated to this practice. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Sure. But I have always been really drawn to physical movement, right? Oh. And so my first career, like all through school as a child, I danced, I did gymnastics, I was running track. I was always very physical. I always related to like using my body, right? Sure. And so when I first started in the corporate world after, finishing university, I didn't feel like I was in the right place.
Sure.
I was seeking out ways. I would go to a gym, or I was trying to find ways to stay in that movement. Like, I just felt like movement was a necessity for me. Right. And so I left the corporate world and I went into fitness.
Awesome.
I started with a gym, and then my husband and I were partners in a gym, and then in physical therapy practice. And so everything started to feel a little bit more aligned. And it was somewhere in that time that I crossed paths with yoga. I had dabbled, just like I would take a dance class, I'd take a yoga class, but it was just stretching. But something really looped me in those years. It was just before I was going to have my kids, you know? So this practice, like I said, I kind of happened upon it, but I feel like it was where I was meant to be. Like all paths lead you to where you're supposed to go. And eventually, once I was involved with the yoga, the physical therapy and the fitness all fell away. I wanted to sell those businesses, and now I'm just doing yoga all the time. It's not just like my career. It's not just my hobby. It's a lifestyle, and that is what I'm promoting in the community.
Absolutely. So how long have you had Yoga Journey, your studio, and what was the inspiration to even call it Yoga Journey and create it to be the space that it is?
Yeah, I had been teaching for many years, but when I decided to brand and create a company, I probably have had it for, in the studio is already 12 years old, and it was Yoga Journey before that. It's, I think, because of my love for travel.
Yeah.
And so I always had this, this kinship with this feeling of like it's the journey, not the destination. Like, because if I was chasing after something, I never would have ended up on this path,
Sure.
right? So, following the signs and trusting my instincts and along the way, this has been my journey. Right. And it's led me exactly where I'm supposed to be. And my other passion is travel.
Right.
And so I started leading yoga retreats, like internationally, and really taking the yoga all over the world. And so I felt like it just made so much sense for my brand to be Yoga Journey.
Sure. I never realized that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. It's like the perfect way to fuse those worlds.
Yeah.
Of yoga here in the community and that space that you create for us. That's such a beautiful space of healing and health and unfoldment, and then also taking it around the world for those immersions. So will you share with us something a little bit more about your retreats? I know I will be doing one in this lifetime because I see you post about them and they look like these delicious, immersive, loving experiences. I know you take nada a lot of times from Trenti.
Yeah, and I have a lot of partnership in the trips. We, almost everything I do in business is collaboration, and I really, really believe in supporting other female entrepreneurs. So almost every trip that I've done has been in collaboration and cooperation with other female businesswomen. My partnerships are in the travel world, in the yoga world, and just coordinating our efforts, bringing our best skills to the table, and creating experiences for people. That's awesome. It goes back to the journey.
Yeah.
So even the preparation and the dreaming up and the vision of a trip is a journey for me. It's like I have this pull to go somewhere in the world. So I start the process of researching and developing relationships. And when I feel like I have people on the ground that I trust, or somebody here who has experience in that region of the world, then I just, I dive in. And every trip is different. Every single trip can have a completely different theme. There can be service work on the trips. Nice. There can be luxury. Just indulgence. There's, nature, there's adventure. So it really depends on the destination, because each time for me, it's a cultural immersion.
Sure. I just got a flash of you and I doing one in India.
Let's do it.
I was like, that would be so beautiful. Because, I remembered a photo of you at the Taj Mahal in India. And I want to go back to Ananda in the Himalayas. And I was like,
it was one of my favorite places ever.
Yeah, it's stunning.
Yeah.
Stunning up in Rishikesh. So when you did your India retreat, what did you love the most about it?
I've had two different experiences in India. One was a journey in the south.
Okay.
We started in Chennai at the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram, which is the roots of our yoga, the Vinyasa yoga. Nice. So we started there, and we continued to move. I was 19 days in the south. Mostly, it was like a temple tour, really, to be honest. And like I said earlier, I'm always very much interested in a cultural immersion. Sure. So I developed relationships on the ground. We, as soon as we arrived, we went and bought fabrics, and we all had authentic Indian clothing made. So we had saris, and we had what are the other shirts?
The kurtas.
Yeah, just all we had. I said, pack very little of your own clothing, and we're going to buy fabrics. Everybody got to kind of choose what they wanted, and we had everything custom made, and we were dressed appropriately, and we were invited into the temples. We were invited in with the priests to the inner sanctums to get blessings. And we visited, and we really just learned so much about the roots and the history and the philosophy of yoga.
That's awesome. That's so beautiful.
It was.
That's actually what I loved the most about yoga teacher training. And I think most people who hear the word yoga teacher training assume that you're going to go get trained to be a yoga teacher. Mm-hmm. And even when I did it, I thought, okay, well, this will be an advanced course in yoga, and then I'll just become this amazing yogi who can do the headstands and who can do everything amazing in yoga and look like they do on Instagram, and it'll just be epic. And I remember when you sat down with me and I said, I'm very interested. You said, you don't have to become a yoga teacher. Mm-hmm. And the goal is not necessarily to stand on your head. There's a whole different layer to this. Yeah. And I think people still underestimate what that means until they're in it. Yeah. Because I remember once I signed up for YTT, I was sitting there in the yoga studio with my fellow students. And it was a really deep immersion into the philosophy of yoga, the history of yoga, the roots of yoga from India. The religious part of it, we learned about it as a science, as a study of this is where it came from. Mm-hmm. And I'm Hindu, and I learned a lot.
I'm glad.
I was like, wow, okay, yes, you are right. We have these texts, and I just don't think about them a lot. Of course, I know about the Bhagavad Gita, but outside of it, I haven't studied it that much. Right. So it's just so beautiful to take that time in my 40s and do this spiritual development that maybe we haven't made time for all the way through, not all of us. Maybe we haven't found the right place to go and do that type of study. So I'd just love for you to share your perspective, because I know a lot of people offer yoga teacher training, and the choice I made to work with you and study under you was so deliberate, because I knew like that reverence and purity and depth that you bring to whatever you do. And I just want the whole world to go do YTT. Literally.
Well, thank you. That's a huge, huge compliment. I'm actually humbled by your experience. It means a lot to me to hold respect and reverence for this practice that has been around for thousands of years. I know that it's so easy in our culture to Americanize things and to culturally appropriate and to just pull out the pieces conveniently that can help you make money.
Sure.
And I'm not pointing fingers at anyone in particular. I'm just saying that it's so easy to do it. And so I work really hard to hold integrity in the teachings and to like really hold them sacred. They have been life-changing for me and continue to be. The more time that I dedicate to the practice, the more I change and grow and evolve as a human. And so if I am blessed with the honor to hold space with people for just a short period of time, if I can impart some of that experience and wisdom from 30 years of living this to the people that come to study with me, then I feel like then I'm paying respect to why it stood the test of time.
Sure.
You know, it's, you know, in our culture, it's very often that the only piece of the yoga that is seen or recognized are the poses.
Yeah.
And you see them on commercials. And you see them. And, you know, I just feel like that is not it. It's so much bigger than that. And there's so much more to it. So if in a 200-hour or a 300-hour block of time over months, if I can really try to give a bigger picture perspective and have a shift or a change happen for you, not like a handstand or a headstand, but like a real shift or change happen in your like physical, mental, emotional, spiritual being, then yoga teacher training is worth it.
It's so true. You know, there's two things I have to that. One, you know, I did YTT in 2020 and I just turned 40. And so I just remember the experience showing me that there's so much more to life than the chaos around us.
Yeah.
And so to be able to build a container of peace at that time for my family and for my children was the biggest gift. Because I took that time and I was like, you know, I yoga and I move in nature. And this is all that I have control over. And I can create such a peace center in my home. And that's the best I can do. I can't control the outside world, but I can control how I'm raising these kids inside this space.
Yep.
And so that was a huge gift. And then the other gift I got that was profound was I fell much deeper in love with my own yoga practice. And so I think before that, I had been going to yoga, but I had been kind of self-critical the whole time. Like, oh, you can't do the best downward dog, or, oh, you can't do that pose, or you're not that flexible, or your form must be wrong because she's saying that's easy and it's not easy. And post-yoga teacher training, I got better form, but I also just understand yoga so much better. So really, I'm there to have the most epic shavasana and the most epic time with my own mind clearing and my system clearing on the mat. Like, I'm just there to process. I'm just there to move. There's nothing to criticize or think about in any negative form. It's just, I get to move. I get to release whatever's meant to be released by me today. And I get to end in the most profound meditation. Hopefully I get some insights from the universe. If not, I got peace.
Right.
And so that shift has been the ultimate gift. Because now I just want to do more yoga. And each time it gives me more, or it gives me something.
Yeah. You said something key. You said it gives me time to process.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, life. You have kids. You have parents that are aging. You have work at, you know, stress at work. You have all kinds of, you know, responsibilities. And it's just like you get a space to create a little container for yourself to, I kind of recognize it as being witness instead of judge.
Sure.
Right? Like you were like, oh, I'm not doing this right. I'm not doing that right. And that's culture. That is, outside pressure, thinking that we need to be something other than we are.
Sure.
And the journey of being on the mat is like starting to actually make peace with like who we are instead of like trying to be something that we're not.
Sure.
And so there's this coming home that happens over time.
Yeah.
And there's real growth in that. It's humbling.
It is.
It's challenging. It's breaking habitual patterns of thinking, habitual patterns of doing, and using the poses in a way that they can be our teacher.
Yeah.
We get to see ourselves in the pose. Do
True.
we celebrate when we can do something hard? Do we beat ourselves up when we do? It's not really the pose at all. It's like our ability to take the seat of the witness.
True.
And then learn from it.
True. No, it's true. And I think so many people are high achievers, and then they bring that into their yoga as well.
Of course, especially if they're drawn to vinyasa.
Yeah.
Generalizations aside, like, we certain energies, like, like with the doshas, like we're drawn to different things.
Yeah.
So some of us who are driven like a vigorous dynamic practice, and those who are more I'd say gentle with our bodies, like to do things that are a little more yin-like, or meditation and stillness. Yeah. And so it's funny that we are drawn to what we are.
True. No, it's very true.
Yeah.
And I remember you and I taught at the Sacred Space online in 2020, and we did a dosha class. It was we went over the 3 doshas. I got to teach the Ayurveda part, and you taught the yoga part.
I loved it.
And I remember the yin part, and I told you, Leslie, I hate yin. Like, I really hate it. And I've been to one of your yin classes outside, and I'm one of those personalities, I just want to scream and run.
Yep.
Because to ask me to hold still in a pose.
Against your nature.
I'm like, why? How? Can we just... So it's, and you said to me, this is your medicine.
Yeah.
This is what's good for you. I was like, okay, if Leslie says so, I'll do it.
But it is true. If you think about it, right? Like if we're always in our nature and then we're always doing the same thing, we're spinning the same wheel.
Sure.
And so if we can step into something that is confrontational, that is challenging, that is an opportunity for growth.
True.
Right? And to expose another part of ourselves that may have been pushed down while this other part of us has been over excessive.
Sure.
And the whole idea of yoga is to bring them back into balance.
Right.
So nobody can be driven and go, 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 go all the time. And nobody can really be sedentary and sit still and not have an energetic flow and some movement in their life. And so we're going to be drawn to the thing that like we think suits us, but it's not necessarily what's good for us.
Right.
I think doing both.
Yeah.
If you asked me 20 years ago, I would have said vinyasa only.
Exactly.
But it's not where I am now. I feel like there's a truth. Like the practice was designed this way so that we could all find all the layers of ourselves and bring ourselves into a place that feels whole and balanced.
Sure. No, it's true. And I remember you taught at the end of YTT, there was a class you did on balancing our energies. And it was
chakras.
Yes, the chakra. It was chakras. But of course, I teach Ayurveda, so I took it as a dosha class.
Yeah,
and
I was. Like, isn't it all the same, different language, but same sort of journey through the body?
True. Yeah. And I was like, I want to one day build a dosha Ayurveda class. This is so cool. And that opportunity to just tune into the energies of the body, our fire element, our earth element, our water, air, all that is such a powerful experience of balancing oneself. And yoga and Ayurveda are sister sciences. These are philosophies that are so like-minded. To live a healthy preventive lifestyle, we teach you must do yoga, period. Like yoga is one of the best ways to move the body in a way that lets you build muscle, but be healthy, but move, but flow, that lets all the energies flow, all the gut-brain axis. I can't even begin to explain how potently and powerfully and beautifully, intelligently, yoga is healing and clearing to the body. And so can you kind of speak into how you look at it? Because I always love how you explain things.
Yeah. There's a lot to break down there. So I guess the first thing I want to say is that yoga, the word yoga, actually, if we just want to pull out a really simple definition, it means union, right? And so when we talk about our doshas, or we talk about like what our nature is, all the elements, when we start to label things, we create other.
Sure.
Right? That we are defined by a certain thing. And the truth is that we are not separate from, we are one with all things. So we have fire, water, air, ether. We have those in us. Like we are the elements. And the practice of yoga, if we look at it as union and not downward facing dog,
Right.
then we understand that yoga can actually be anything. Yoga is a concept. Yoga is a lifestyle. Yoga is a mindset. It's a state of being rather than something that we do.
Sure.
And so walking can be.
Of course.
I mean, I think the poses were so beautifully designed, and they continue to evolve. But they like intuitively touch the energy of the body. They massage and soothe the nervous system. They even out the hormone levels that are being released from our glands. They increase our circulation. They bring heat and detoxification. They oxygenate every cell in our being when we breathe and we move.
True.
So when I like to think of yoga as breathing and moving, and not necessarily defined by like the asana practice.
Sure.
I think the asana practice is brilliant. And if you are able to do it, it's a great way to keep strength, tone, muscle, clarity in the mind, increased oxygenation, cardiovascular health, like all of the things. Right. But I also think doing your dishes can be yoga.
It's true.
I think walking in nature can be yoga. I think this conversation right now can be yoga.
True.
And so I want to, anyone who's listening, to kind of broaden your definition and your thinking of the practice as, beyond the poses that you see happening on TV or on Instagram, because most of what you're seeing, like on those commercials and in Instagram, have nothing to do with yoga.
True.
Right?
It's just doing a pose.
Right.
Yeah, striking a pose.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to being present. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As opposed to what is. And you're right. Yoga very much is that mindset, or that almost like attention and space clearing and peace that we create in any activity. I was taught that as a kid. We went to this Vedantic school, Sunday school, and they said, when you do the dishes, think of God. Just think about who you believe in, God, universe, whatever that could be, and take that time and do mantras. Chant your own mantras in your own mind or out loud. So every time I go to do the dishes, I have the same mantra I chant every time. And I think to myself, instead of being bitter, instead of being angry, instead of being frustrated, oh, no one else does the dishes. Why do I have to do the dishes?
Right. And that's human.
Yeah. Instead of bringing negative energy to this thing, which we are going to have, someone has to do these dishes.
Right.
I want this house to be clean, and I want everyone to be eating out of clean dishes, period. So why can't I take that same moment and bring meaning to it, bring peace to it, take it as an opportunity of counting my blessings?
Yeah.
So,
or an act of service.
Correct.
Karma.
Yeah.
Right?
True. And that's where I find yoga so powerful. You can absolutely yoga when you walk. A lot of times when I go for a walk, I'm just there to connect with nature, breathe in nature. And I find the more I just tune into nature, it's almost like nature magnifies. The plants are brighter. The flowers are stunning. Yeah. And then I'm like, am I high? Like, what is wrong with me right now? And then I'm like, this is what you do all the time, Shivani. You just fall in love with everything to these depths that I wish and hope everyone gets to do. Because the whole world is so stunning if you just tune into it.
Yeah, but we do get, we narrow our vision and we forget to see all the beauty around us sometimes. Yeah. And maybe that's what yoga does. Maybe by the end of all of the challenging poses and the grit and the sweat and the and then the slowing down and the holding, maybe like all of the different ways that we get poked and prodded in the practice, and we twist and bend and we move all of our insides. Like maybe at the end of all of that, when we settle, maybe we just have a better chance of seeing the world like you do when you walk in nature.
Yeah, it's true. You get to be so much more expansive because you're.
It's all there all the time. We're just missing it.
It's true. It's so true.
Yeah.
I love that. So when it comes to yoga, do you have any like special stories? I would say the yoga journey, not just yoga, but to your yogic journey, do you have some special stories on women or men who've gone to the retreats or to yoga where yoga has been truly transformational to them?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure you
I
have like
see
hundreds.
life-changing, shifts all the time. I don't know if I don't really want to share anybody's name or anything,
Sure,
but
please.
I do feel like there's been, oh my gosh, there's just been so many that it's not just, I mean, sometimes people come in and they're just like out of shape and they are coming because they want the fitness and they have tremendous amount of like strength and weight loss and, shifts in the body.
Sure.
But some people have shifts like energetically and emotionally.
Yeah.
I see so much. I don't, I'm hesitant to like share names or anything too specific because our community is really close, and I think people will know maybe who I'm talking about. So I just don't want to divulge any kind. People share a lot of really personal things, and I feel like I want to keep that trust.
Sure.
But I've seen a lot of healing from trauma from childhood. I've seen big shifts in even politics and ethics. Wow. I see people shifting from, becoming vegan all of a sudden, where like their whole life they were a meat eater, and now all of a sudden they can't step past the harm that's being done in commercial farming and I just feel like we wake up when we do yoga, and it's happening every day in the studio, all over in every aspect of life. Like so. Whatever brings you to yoga, if you stay long enough, a shift is going to happen. It's surprising. People move in directions they never, ever would have imagined. And I get to be witness and be sort of I want to say their partner. Right. Maybe for a little time on their journey. They have a long life before I cross paths, and they may only stay for a little while and move on, and I just feel like what a gift it is for me to even bear witness to the shifts and change that are happening every single day on the mat.
It's true. No, there's so much there. Pigeon pose is my favorite.
Yeah.
And so I had a teacher who I came to very regularly, Courtney, and she would always include pigeon pose. Yeah. And I just loved her flow. I loved her teaching. And my best friend laughs every time there's pigeon. She goes, "Oh, it's Shivani's favorite pose." But I'm one of those people. I'm a reserved person. I have a lot of thoughts processing. I'm keeping 95% of them in. Yep. And so I actually need to move my body to process through, or I'll just contain it all.
Right.
I want a beautiful home. I want beautiful kids. I want everything beautiful. But in the process, I'm not usually giving myself space to process what's going on in my mind or in my emotions. And so for me, that's why the gym and yoga are so key.
Right.
Like I come
into discharge for you energetically.
So I come into the gym and I move and I go from like the complicated brain space I'm in to clearing it all out. And then like the happiest, purest version of me comes out. And same thing in yoga. So I need like those hip openers and those things that allow us to release emotions.
Yeah. Today, the class that I taught this morning, I was actually talking about how can we get out of our heads and into our bodies. Yeah. I mean, and that's not every class. I mean, sometimes we got to get out of our bodies. We obsess about our bodies and we need to get into something other than that. But today it was, there's so much going on in the world and there's so much, full range of emotions that people are carrying right now. There's collective grief and trauma, I mean, as there is always, but in particular now. And I feel like we need to ground and we need a place where we can process all of those thoughts and kind of filter through them and let them process. So the body in the practice gets a charge, and then that softness, that long hold of pigeon is like the opportunity to release.
Sure.
And sometimes it comes vocally with a sigh. There's lots of tools that we're using all the time that people don't even realize in the yoga practice, that these are tools for re-regulating the nervous system.
Correct.
You know?
And oftentimes we don't have those tools for ourselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to go to massage, chiropractic,
Right.
acupuncture. And that was the whole point of this podcast, is show everyone there's a lot of tools that we can put in our toolkit.
Yeah.
And it's just about finding the right ones for you in any given season or year or decade of your life.
Exactly.
Because that can shift.
Yeah. And they do change.
They really do. I'm finding that as I'm crossing further into my 40s, my body does not want me to do everything I did before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how, body? How can you not let me just go at full throttle in the gym every day?
Right.
What do you mean my gas tank is up in the gym class? That is not that is not acceptable. Give me the second and third gas tank of energy I need for each quarter of my day. And so I'm all of a sudden having to recalibrate and say, okay, well, where are my energy centers most charged? How can I add in a second yoga class in the week? Because my body would love that. And so that's part of what I want to encourage people, is look at your each decade as an opportunity to recalibrate the equation of what you need for your health.
And it changes. Like, what you need when you're 2 is different than what you need when you're 12, than when you're 22, when you're 32, 42.
Sure.
Like, the decades really tell the chapters of our life.
It's true. It's true.
And our soul and our personality may be the same, but our body is ever changing.
It's true.
And so to have expectations that we're going to continue to move and feel like we did when we're 20,
Right.
yeah, I feel like yoga is really helpful at showing us how to modify and be respectful. And sometimes we surprise ourselves at what we're capable of, and sometimes we have to back off.
Yeah, it's true. The other day I did a pose that I hadn't done in a year. And I was like, wow. I think it was like flamingo, where you take your whole leg. I was like, wow, I held this pose. It's like such a moment of powerful accomplishment. And for those who do want to de-age over time or hold flexibility and function and everything over time, I find yoga to be one of the best ways to do it. Yoga and walk. I mean, this is what Ayurveda and yoga always said.
Yeah.
Is all we need.
Yeah.
We don't need to burn the candle at both ends. I mean, we all know weightlifting and all these things built, is beneficial as well.
Right.
But
that's resistance work, and it can happen with bands, it can happen with weights, and it can happen with holding poses.
Correct.
It's, static holds, like, holding plank is strength work.
Correct.
And so I think if you're doing your practice on a regular basis and you're modifying and you're doing a variety of different kinds of poses, your body really does get what it needs. Absolutely. I think I see that a lot too. Nice. That when people come into yoga and then have a regular practice over a long period of time, like they come regularly and they start to make it part of their life, their bodies go back to the way their bodies are supposed to be, not what we're trying to make them be.
Sure.
That's a very different thing,
True.
The yoga just seems to, I don't know, it makes us, I call it behavior modification. It's like subliminal behavior modification, You just start eating a little different. You start thinking twice about, do I really want to have that extra glass of wine? I want to get up and do my practice in the morning. I'll feel dull, so maybe I won't. There's just these weird things that happen slowly and sort of in a subtle way. And you start to take better care of yourself because you want this thing to function well. You want it to be vibrant and vital.
Yeah. No, it's true. I noticed that when I did YTT with my best friend, we both say the best we've ever looked or felt was in YTT because we had to do so much yoga. It was required to attend 3 classes a week or watch class. And then when you went to watch class, you were like, no, I have to do class. I can't watch. And so we were doing so much yoga at the time and trying the other modalities because he wanted us to try other modalities.
Right.
And so speaking into that idea of taking beautiful care of ourselves, I told my daughter the other day, she's 13, I said, one day I'd love for you to do yoga teacher training. It was amazing. She goes, Mommy, I'm ready now. Oh. And I thought, whoa, would we have a whole different planet if we wouldn't we have one, if we gave our 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds this space to understand that they could have a practice for themselves that helped them process everything happening in the world.
Yeah.
Everything happening in their lives. They don't have to go on Instagram to fight with each other or whatever it is they're doing, you know? They built their own internal compass so strongly So that's just, it's something I'm planning to do for her, is put her into YTT and let her have that journey herself.
Yeah.
And that understanding, because it could change their whole trajectory of self-awareness.
And it will.
Yeah.
And it will. But I would suggest giving, like you dropped the seed already.
Yeah.
Let it nurture itself. And when she's ready, she'll come.
Sure.
Yeah. Because there's a maturity level.
I know.
That
Yeah.
also happens with kids. And, they
15,
have
16.
pressure at school.
Yeah.
Being in middle school, like there's exams and different things. And so, teacher training on top of it is
A lot.
it can be a lot. And so I wouldn't want, they have enough stress and anxiety, so I would want to be really clear that it was like something that she was being pulled from her own heartstrings to really be dedicated and want to do it.
Sure.
And you as mama, you live by example.
True.
And
That's
so
true.
you are a living example every single day of your yoga and understanding, like through Ayurveda, like understanding, your own true nature and how we change with the seasons and all of the beautiful things that you teach every day in the community. Like you are, I mean, how lucky is she to have an example of that in her home, like you as her mom and her role model in life?
Thank you.
Yeah,
I try my best.
I mean, look, that's all we can do. We're human.
Yeah. And one more thing I wanted to share today is, the way you hold space for our community is incredible.
Thank you.
I don't know anyone else who does it. And I went through it acutely when you held space for one of your yogis who passed last year, who was super special to a lot of us. And now we're going through a hard time in the community. So how do you do it? How do you hold space for so much sadness and so much trauma and things in people's lives? Because I know they come to you first.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I don't think about it so much. I trust my intuition, and I think the only thing that I can do in moments like that are really be true to myself. So that whatever I say out loud, I have to be able to have some backup and conviction for it. I can't be sort of pushed around to say what I think I'm supposed to say. So I feel like in moments like that, when there's collective grief or trauma, when we're going through something as a society, as a culture, as a community, I think that the key is to let everything be rooted in truth and love. And so if I'm doing things from a space of love, my intention is to do no harm, like the Yoga Sutras teach us, and really to just try to hold that space. I know that every single person goes through life differently because we have different past experiences.
Right.
And so nobody is ever going to see the same situation through the same filter.
True.
And so if I know that I'm just seeing it one way, then every other person that's experienced it is seeing it through their own lenses. Right. We all have to sort of try to open a space. I mean, that's the teachings of compassion, is to allow everybody to do it the way they need to do it. And to, have like just a little bit of softness and a little bit of respect and space. I have a spiritual teacher that taught me once that when other people have big energy around me, that I can abide with them. Like I can, as a friend, walk beside them and hold hands, but I can't enmesh because their story and their experience is theirs and theirs alone, and not mine. True. And so I have no right to it. It's not a matter of like if I want to help or not, but I have no right to it. So I can stand beside you and I can hold you. Like that's like there's a boundary that needs to be held so that we can be whole and then be able to sit with someone else that is struggling. Right? If we get dragged down with them or we get pulled up with the other one, like my energy would be all over the place all the time and I wouldn't be able to hold all that comes at me, in the course of a day, a week, a year, whatever.
Sure.
Right? And so I don't want to say I'm neutral. I don't want to say I'm detached because that has a connotation of not caring.
Sure.
My heart is completely in all of it. But there's a very safe and beautiful boundary that allows me to abide with as opposed to get enmeshed with.
That's a big deal.
And that You know, like I have my own story, you have yours. Like we're all entitled to our own, and I have no right to anybody else's. Like energetically in the universe, I don't have a right to anyone else's field, right? And so I think that's part of it. You know, truth and love and holding boundaries. It's amazing the capacity that you can have to be around so much.
It's true.
And it's joy. It's all the highs and the beautiful things and the celebrations as much as the deepest grief.
It's true.
And loss, you know.
No, it's very true. I love that you shared that. For me, I do that in my own ecosystem. I have a really large, complex family here in South Florida.
Yes, you do.
And so I just manage the Gupta empire, as I call it, my collective.
Yeah.
And as each year passes, I learn to practice it with more compassion and more patience. But you're right. The more we enmesh with others, sometimes the more problems we cause.
Right.
And if we can instead just hold space, I think of it as Mother Earth energy. So like tomorrow is an Indian holiday that I'm going to, Mother Earth energy. I just tune into it, hold space for it. So whatever is going to happen will happen.
Right.
And I'm there with love. And I'm a big believer. And if I show up with love to everything with such a pure heart, and sometimes when something comes, like I was in an event the other day and there was a contest.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, it would be really fun to win that. And I was like, Shivani, don't do that. How about whoever's meant to receive this today, I hope they receive it. And that's where I left the intention.
Right. And maybe it was you.
And someone else won it. And I was
Right.
like, yes, like that was so beautiful for you. And I always want to come from that place of pure intention. If I do want it, I will say,
Right.
I would love to have that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, if I don't care, why not just wish the best for all?
Yeah.
You know?
What a beautiful place to live from.
Yeah.
Right?
And I find that is a gift from yoga. That ability to hold that
Absolutely.
is the gift of holding your yogic practice off the mat.
Yeah. I think back to my younger self and I laugh because I was like a brat, you know? And I feel like when I look back and I can measure time now,
Yes.
it's the yoga for sure
Yeah.
that has taught me and allowed me to be able to sit in the seat of the teacher and to hold space and to not be drained or exhausted by it either, you know?
Right. And take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, if you take good care of yourself, you actually have the ability to serve
True.
better,
True.
right?
And I mean, you have had such huge events. Your main word, your theme is community. And so you've held your biggest events with 2,000 people. There's so many people in this community who come to you. So is there any last thoughts or wishes that you want to share today?
I just think that there's a lot of pressure in the world right now, and just in the simplest way of like this, like it's a disease I call perfectionism.
Sure.
Right? Like we all are striving all the time and we're just trying to live up to and we're competing with. And I just wish that we could all just let go of that a little bit, like just loosen the grip on that perfectionism just a little bit so that we could actually be just better versions of ourselves. Like, I mean, the world needs us right now to show up better and to stop fighting and to stop othering and to stop separating. And like the whole idea of unity in yoga is, you know, that we remember that we are one with and not separate from. So not everything is a fight, not everything is a competition. And when we get on the mat, no one's trying to say like your down dog is better than your down dog. Like there's no attitude of that anywhere. You know, I just feel like if we could loosen our grip a little bit on that perfectionism and we could just feel, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's not, but just like if there's one thing I feel like we could all benefit from, it would be like trying to heal from that dysfunction that lives in us because it's in the air.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, it's an outside force. And if we could release it, how different our life experience would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that message. It completely resonates with me. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I may be picking up something that was supposed to be told to you today. I don't know.
Maybe me, all my friends, everyone I know.
Yeah, but that's right. So I'm saying it's not just me either.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I really feel like, and I see it in the young women. I see it, you know, like we're sometimes we're prioritizing, we're trying too hard for the wrong things.
Yeah. And that distraction into perfection is such a control. But if you think about it, it's a distraction. It's a distraction from the actual life happening to you.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes if I'm walking down my own hallway in my own home on Instagram, I did this yesterday and I said, you know what? Life is happening now. Why are you on your phone? Inside your own home with your own children. Like, get present to the here. How can we be so distracted by the ethos and then not be present in our own bodies, in our own spirit, in our own mind with what actually matters? Relationship, love, regard, respect.
Nature,
all these things.
breath, movement, moving and breathing. It's so simple. Yeah. Maybe that's my final thought. Everybody just every day try to move and breathe a little bit. However it looks like for you, be dedicated to it and do it mindfully.
Beautiful.
You know?
Yeah, thank you. So where can everybody find you? I know where they can find you, but if you'll share that.
Yeah, yogajourney.com, my website. It's also leslieglickman.com. We are one and the same. Instagram, same thing, studio name or my name, Yoga Journey or Leslie Glickman. Pretty easy to track down, pretty accessible, lots of programming in the community always, lots of beautiful programming with my whole team at the studio. It's not just me. Yes. Yoga Journey is an entire team and community. Awesome. So I get the privilege of standing in the middle of it, but I'm surrounded by the most amazing humans.
I know. Your teachers are incredible, and your students and everyone I got to meet.
Everyone, and not just the teachers, just everyone. I mean, every person who walks into practice with me is my teacher.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for coming on today.
What a privilege and what just a joy to be here and chat with you, just like girl talk.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's you're someone who I've just respected and loved for so long, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being my teacher.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for being mine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me for this episode. Check out our sponsor, Fusionary Formulas, the potent turmeric supplement used by doctors around the U.S. for patients with pain and inflammation. www.fusionaryformulas.com. I'm your host, Dr. Shivani Gupta. For more, visit shivanigupta.com. Subscribe to this podcast in Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Click the follow button or subscribe in any of the apps that you use. That's all I've got for you on the Fusionary Health podcast this week. You have the power to transform your health and achieve vibrant health starting today.